Shabbat Shalom. Laughing about my singing abilities over there. I don't mind announcing here in an intimate venue such as this in front of more than 100 of my closest friends that I am a huge hypocrite. I'm a huge hypocrite. Because almost from the beginning of this war between Hamas and Israel, their slaughter of 1,300 people, mostly our own, and mostly civilians, 150 captives and 3,000 wounded. Almost from the very beginning, I've been telling people, warning them, you gotta be careful. You gotta take a break from scrolling and watching. You can't do it continuously, you'll drive yourself nuts. Remember, you gotta remember to take a break. You can always come back. But I'm a hypocrite because it was easy to say that at first. As the atrocities started pouring in, I don't have to detail them, there are children here, but you know what I'm talking about. It was easy at first to be in that role as a community leader or as a friend, to caution others, take a break from scrolling, from watching, to tell myself, okay, that's enough for now, I can always come back, and then to do it. But I found, as this terrible week wore on, a week that is unprecedented in the lived Jewish experience of my lifetime and most of yours, that it became harder and harder to take a break, to just look away, just for a moment, just to regroup. I wanted to know more. I needed to know more, even as my stomach turned and my eyes wept and I felt a white-hot rage fill my heart. No matter how much I already knew and saw and read, I both needed more and was cut deeper each time by what I learned and saw and heard. It became harder to look away when the inevitable came, and I knew it would happen from the jump. I knew, like most of you knew, the inevitable blaming of the Jews for our own slaughter. What other nation on God's green earth does that happen to? I ask you. And I have just a few people in my social media orbit who post such things, but there are a few, and to see some of these old acquaintances post about, or to watch TV pundits talk about the understandable reaction of the oppressed, or the natural desire to throw off the chains of colonizers, and I found myself yelling at my phone, who was a 10-month-old oppressing? Who was a Holocaust survivor or a music festival attendee colonizing? Repeatedly seeing the news, not just out of Israel, but London and Paris and Australia, New York, Los Angeles, right here in Houston. Signs and rallies, and it's disgusting. Hearing from Jewish friends who are content creators online, completely non-political content, food and fashion, that kind of a thing. They're getting death threats in their DMs. Why? They simply want to live openly as Jews, and that's enough to do it. Hearing from our teens, what they are hearing from their peers, even teachers at school right now. It turns your stomach, confirming in my mind what I think many of us have always known, which is that to be a Jew is to always be prepared to stand alone in this world. We have some allies, and we need more, like all minorities do. That anti-Semitism has waxed and waned through the millennia, but it is a virus, it is vermin, it will never fully be extinguished, and hating Jews is just too easy. It's too convenient, and being reminded of that too every time I scroll or watch or hear, it's exhausting. As the week wore on, and despite myself, I continuously would watch the news out of Israel. I saw the numbers ticking up as I scrolled, and I watched more news from home and abroad. Jewish life reduced to a mere talking point rather than a precious commodity. I felt myself becoming not more emotional and reactive. That's what I would have guessed, knowing myself as I do. And not even more enraged, though, trust me, I have lots of rage. But rather, and I heard this from lots of people too, so I know I'm not alone, but I felt increasingly numb. Almost like my mind and my soul were trying to protect me. from a level of pain that I have never experienced in real time, only from my great-grandmother's stories about pogroms in Lithuania or reading books about the Holocaust. But the national anthem of Israel is Hatikva, the hope. And so I knew that my increasing numbness from overexposure needed some kind of mitigation. And so here we are, and this is very rare for me. I'm giving a sermon that's not first inspired by the Parsha, the weekly Torah portion, and then I find a parallel for it in some kind of experience I've had before in my life, but rather some experience that I and all of us are having right now, in this very moment, and that I look to the Parsha for help. It's kind of ironic, actually, I think, that this week has been filled with too many endings. But we're starting the Torah from the very beginning. We start the Torah reading cycle over again this very week, the reading of Bereshit, the creation of the world and all that's in it. Vayar Elohim et ki tov, God saw that it was good. It's a good reminder around now. But God didn't just create the stuff in the world in its creation story. Vayivarach Elohim et yom hashvi'i. God blessed the seventh day as part of the creation story. Vayikadesh oto, and declared it holy. Ki vo shavat mikol melachto, having ceased from all the work that God had done. On the seventh day, God created something, all right. God created Shabbat, a cessation, a break, a holy cessation, and a blessed break, because it is holy to press pause, we learn in the second chapter of the very first book of the Torah. And when did God need this blessed break? Not at the beginning. I bet God was full of energy at the beginning, the hard work of hanging the sun and the moon and the stars, separating the oceans from the heavens, pulling trees up from the earth, creating every living thing from earthworms to meerkats to human beings. Vayar Elohim ki tov, God saw that it was good. Even that last one. In fact, tov me'od, God says after people are made, very good. But then God was exhausted, or God knew we would be exhausted, with the sometimes easy and sometimes heart-rending business of being in this world. And so God rested, took a break, hit pause, and so must we. Because there is so much more Torah after the second chapter in the first book of the creation of it all. There's so much more Torah after creation, a lot more Torah, and some of it is beauty and some of it is pain. It is a marathon, not a sprint for God. And so too in our lives, in normal circumstances and non, we must remember the immense gift we are given as Jews, which is Shabbat, a reminder that for a time, for our health, for our wholeness, we must just a little take a moment, take a break, hit pause. As I said to the 5th and 6th grade religious school students, and I'm trying to remember myself, the news, bad or good, it will be there when you come back. Taking that break, putting the phone down, turning off the TV, excusing yourself from that conversation, it doesn't mean you don't care, as long as you're not excusing yourself to go stick your head in the sand, as too many of our supposed friends are doing. They, and certainly we, are not exempt from witnessing this destruction of God's holy humanity. We take a break so we can maintain the energy to carry on our daily lives, and then to leap back into the fray where we are needed and will be needed, I fear, for a very long time to come. So it's imperative that we allow ourselves the space to breathe so that we don't become so enraged and so exhausted and so numb to the reality, to a level of pain not experienced for most of us since our grand or great-grandparents' time. We cannot afford to be so enraged or exhausted or numb that we can't do what we need to do in our daily lives. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so we must all pay special attention this week, especially, as the Torah presciently reminds us. This week we must take breaks, we must take care of ourselves so we can take care of business, the business of caring for Israel and for each other, now and always. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Ford, for important reminders. And the reminder, thank God we do have Shabbat.